Well, everybody, what's the crack? And welcome back to episode number 24 of the Inline G Flute Podcast with me, your host, Inline G. Now, guys, you've all seen this week is a guest episode. It's a brilliant episode, and I'm going to get this introduction out of the way as quickly as possible because the episode was so good. We've literally just finished recording it about 30 minutes ago. I am editing this as quickly as possible to get it out into the wild in the next 3 hours. So I'm going to let you guys loose on that very, very shortly. But anyway, who is the guest? Well, you've seen in the title, it is none other than the queen of flute social media herself, Gillian Derer. You guys might know her as Gill Flutes on Instagram, also on YouTube. Since this podcast was started, she's been one of the number one guests I've wanted to get on here. She is such a fun person. She is brilliant. I love her content. I'm in awe of the following she's got. She's made such a wonderful, empathetic, compassionate corner of the internet for flute players to join together. I'm a massive fan of hers. We had a blast. We talked about everything. If you head down to the description, there is chapters. You can pick what bit you want us to talk about. Although I would recommend listening to the whole thing. It was so much fun. But before I let you guys loose on that, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you're a regular listener to this podcast, you can skip this bit. You know what's coming up here. But anyone who's new to the podcast, this is an independent podcast. I do everything around here. I do audio production, video production, graphic design, marketing, script writing, social media, the lot. It is a passion project. I love this more than anything in my life right now. It is my baby. It is wonderful. It is free. The podcast will always be free. I will never, ever introduce a system where you can pay for more content. Everyone will get the same amount of content for free. Pinky promise. But if you would like to donate to the podcast, it is incredibly appreciated. What it essentially allows me to do is to turn away small bits of work in my life to be able to dedicate more time to the podcast, therefore making a better quality product. Last month, I was able to turn away a little bit of teaching because I'd made enough in donations off this podcast to dedicate more time. And therefore, you've got so many episodes this month and we're powering through Christmas. You will get an episode every Friday. So if you want to donate, go down to the description in this video or wherever you're listening to it. You'll see a PayPal link. Alternatively, head over to my Instagram, Gareth Houston Flute. There's a link in the bio. What do you donate? I would recommend whatever a pint or a Dr. Pepper costs in your country. Once a month max. Basically, if you listen to this podcast, you get 4 hours of entertainment a month and you think, if I saw Gareth in the pub, I'd buy him a pint, go and buy me one. 3 quid, 4 quid, whatever it costs. Something around that. It's massively appreciated. Now, I'm going to stop talking. That's only 3 minutes of talking. That's far too much. Here is my interview with the one, the only, the wonderful Gillian Derer.
Okay.
But it's looking amazing. I love the background as well.
This is my studio where I teach my students. So
at home or
yeah, at home. So if any of my students are watching this, they might be triggered.
Oh, is this the place where you had the board in your vlog about orchestral auditions?
Yes, this is
the board
room.
Over there somewhere? There.
Here, can I move? Oh, I'm using this camera. Here's the board.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah.
What's on the board now? What's next for the board?
Well, it's pretty empty. Like, there's a couple of things at the top that I'm auditioning for. Like New World Symphony, National Youth Orchestra, and National Academy Orchestra. Those are at the top right now. But I haven't gone in and put in those excerpts yet since I'm not in super audition prep mode. Okay. But I will soon. That'll be a next week kind of thing. So.
Oh wow, you're going to do it the week before Christmas? You're going to put your orchestral auditions up?
You bet.
Oh, that is commitment to another level. I feel like mentally I've already clocked out for the year. There's nothing that's getting more than about 30% effort. It's not getting done this year. That's for next year. Yeah. But yeah, I watched your vlog on orchestral auditions. It was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah? Yay.
So when was that audition? That was like October time?
October 30th. So I was there for Halloween.
The day before Halloween. Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah. Oh, spooky.
But yeah, so that was over a month ago now. It's so weird. It feels like a year ago. It feels like so long ago.
But and that was your first ever orchestral audition?
You bet. Okay. That was my first one. Got on a whole plane and everything.
I know. I'm very impressed with that. Yeah. I watched it and I actually really enjoyed the fact that it wasn't centered around how you actually played it. You made it very clear from the output that you were trying to gain something from it, gain the experience of doing an audition, get a positive experience, sort of base the timings, work all that out. I really enjoyed that.
Yay. That was a hard vlog for me to put out actually, because I mean, and I talked about this in the vlog even, is that like all of my audition feelings, some of them were super strongly negative. Like, you know, preparing for my first big audition, I was experiencing some of the most stress I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how good I feel about this putting out there, because putting this out there, because I was really getting down on myself. And I was like, that's totally the opposite of what my message is that I'm trying to share. But at the same time, I was like, this is really honestly how I'm feeling. And if other people are out there preparing an audition and they're feeling like this, maybe it will help them. So 100%. I put it out there. But I was really nervous, but the response has been good. And I think that from what I've heard, it was kind of helpful and insightful. And I mean, the audition process, I felt so alone the whole time, because you're literally just alone all day.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
and I think hopefully this will make somebody else going through that process feel a little less alone in that.
I think it will. Like, I would have loved to have had something like that like 8 years ago when I was doing my first auditions. I would have loved that. Because my first audition was a nightmare story.
Where was it?
Actually, I've actually never told this story on the podcast. What a fitting moment. Why not? My first ever orchestral audition was down in Cannes in the south of France. You know where the film festival is? The Cannes Film Festival. It was down there. I was living in Paris at the time, but it was still like a good 4 or 5 hour train. So yeah, I did the whole thing, prepped for months, weighed myself, did all the, weighed the weight of like, how long it was going to take, doing mock exams 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before, doing this 1 week before, really measured it out, super prepared, got a train, booked an Airbnb, did the whole thing. I thought, yeah, I'm really ready for this. I'm going to nail this audition. And I got in. And what I didn't expect was in Europe, they all have to be blind auditions. So it's all behind a screen. The first round.
Every round too?
Sorry?
Every round is screen?
Up until the last round usually. And then the last like 4 or 5, they'll take the screen away. And then you get like chamber music tests and things like that. But this one, like as well, I saw so many people I knew because everyone from the Paris conservatoires were there. So you're bumping into people. But I went down and then I knew it was going to be a blind one, but I never really considered it. So they go around with a hat with the numbers in it and you draw out what number you're going to play. And I remember I drew out like number 37. And then I thought like, shit, how long is 37 away? Is it going to be like 10 minutes? Is it going to be like an hour? Is it going to be 3 hours? And I was thinking, can I leave to get something to eat? Can I not leave? So it was like a good 3 hours and it wrecked me because I didn't know what to do with that time. I was sitting in a big, huge auditorium with like 200 other flute players and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't prepared for this. And I went up and the very first piece they asked for was Peter and the Wolf. And I remember I screwed up the second note. I know. It was a night. Like, to be fair, it really weeded the people out, me being one of them, because I was so tired. I didn't know what to expect. I played like 3 notes and the little bell went. I'm like, merci. And I was like, oh man, I've traveled for 2 days to get here. Yeah, they just ring a little bell and they go, merci. And I'm like, mate, I've only played like 3 notes. Can I not like, no, that's enough. I was heartbroken. Luckily that night, one of my good friends was doing a Iron Woman challenge in Nice, not far away. So I went to go with her, watch her doing the Iron Woman, and then we went out in a night out. And then I missed my train home the next morning. It was a bit of a mess the whole weekend. But I could have done with someone making the kind of content you were to highlight the fact that it's not about getting the job at the start, because that's out of your control, isn't it? You can't decide if you're going to get the job or not. You put a set of parameters and things you want to achieve and you want to get from it, and then you evaluate it based on that. So in that way, it would have been a success. If I had said in my first audition what you said, which is, I want to have the experience of doing it, I want to see what it's like, I want to put myself out there, it would have been a success. But I viewed it as a total catastrophe of an audition because I didn't know that there was ways to do that. But yeah, it was a disaster. Anyway, I don't know why I told that story. Right. I've got questions and everything written down here, but we've already started. Actually, what I wanted to ask you before we went into this is, it's one of my first questions. I'm going to write, obviously, a beautiful, glowing introduction about how wonderful this episode went. But when I'm doing that, can I refer to you as a social media influencer, or is that something you don't like?
You can. It's funny because influencer is like the word. It's the word that everybody uses. Sometimes I hear like social media personality. I think content creator has come out a lot more, which I prefer content creator, although I don't feel like I strongly identify really with any of those words. Like there's no perfect word that I feel like describes what I do. I don't love influencer, but I don't hate it either.
Okay.
So like whatever is good.
Okay. Do you have a favorite alternative yet then?
I think content creator. I think I like
Yeah.
that. And that
Sounds
doesn't
very.
have the like weird negative attributions that
There is
influence.
something about that with influencer, isn't there? Yeah. Yeah. When you think of a social media influencer, it's not the best image I would have in my head. To be totally
Yeah.
honest. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to call you an influencer then. Just, I've answered my own question there. But yeah, social media, I don't want to spend all day on this, but this is purely for my own benefit. I want to ask you about it because I'm so in awe of what you're doing on Instagram. I think it's amazing how good you're doing. And purely for my own entertainment, I want to ask the questions about it. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that, and then I promise we will move on to more interesting things. But social media, how did that start? Did you intend when you set out doing social media to get this far with it?
So when I started, I started playing flute when I was in grade 9, so pretty late. When I was 14.
Oh, wow, that is quite late.
Yeah, and I think around that time is when also Instagram started becoming a thing, and there were some young high school players in the US who were making practice accounts. And Katie Flute, she was like the OG, like,
yeah, she was
influencer, like flute girly on the internet. And I think so she was the first one I ever watched, and from her started stemming these younger players who were just a few years ahead of me, or maybe in early university, who were making these practice accounts. And I watched them religiously. I didn't know a lot about music. I didn't have a lot of connection. I mean, from a very small town, right? That was quite isolated. So I didn't have a lot of outside music influence. So I watched them so much. I idolized them. Like, I was like, oh, they're so inspiring. And it was such a big part of my young playing life, like watching other Instagram players.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to do it, and I never did. You know, you get like shy and embarrassed and all that. I could never do that. But when COVID happened, like March 2020, and we all got sent home from university, I was in second year. Yeah, I was in second year. And I went home to my parents' house, and I was like, well, I have nothing to do. And so many of my colleagues at the time were also, I think everybody was coming out with these practice accounts at the time, because there was really no other way to connect with other musicians or share your music at that time. Like, there was really nothing. So,
100 days of practice and all that was kicking off big time. I remember that.
100 days of practice was huge.
I did not have the dedication for that. So sorry, go ahead.
Those were the days. But so it was kind of just born out of my childhood bedroom. I started posting practice videos on Instagram. It was much more practice focused than it is now. Now it's kind of everything. But at the time, it was just, here's Peter the Wolf that I'm working on, and here's these pieces that I'm working on, and what I'm trying to do with it, and these kinds of things. So I started sharing that, and a lot of other, again, like little players like me started coming out with these things, and we formed this really tight community of like young people who were isolated and wanted to connect with each other and keep making music and stay inspired during lockdown. And, you know, so we started commenting on all each other's videos and
that's class. It's so nice to build that kind of community as well. That's the funnest part of it. That's the funnest part of social media, is interacting with people, I think, anyway.
I know, I agree. And like, from that tiny little account that I made, and I remember sitting in my childhood bedroom and thinking about the influencers per se, or the flutists, the musicians that I had followed when I was in high school, thinking like, I'll never ever get to where they are. They had maybe like 9,000 or 10,000 followers. And I was like, I'll never get there, but like, I'll try for like 1,000. I really want to get 1,000 followers. And from there, I, came this like corner of the internet that I now live in. With this community that has come from it. I am still so shocked that what came of it, because I never ever thought it would grow like this.
To the extent it has. So what does it stand at now? Is it 35K the last time I looked? Is that still on Instagram?
Yeah.
What? Like That's insane. Well, actually, on the sort of note of landmark moments, the very first video you remember making for social media purposes, did you post it?
Yes.
So you didn't make like a trial one and then go, no, I'm not putting that out. You went straight for it, and
No, I really just went for it.
What was it?
Can't remember. I remember my first couple.
Okay.
And they were either in my childhood bedroom it had this ridiculous teal wall that I was standing in front of, or my parents' living room. That's where I recorded, and I was recording excerpts at the time. I remember recording a ridiculous version of Peter and the Wolf.
Ridiculous how?
I think I posted a Mendelssohn Scherzo very early. I posted a Voliere way before I should have been posting.
Straight into the deep end there. Scherzo, Voliere, no messing around there. That is, wow, fair play to you. Okay, tell me, so Voliere, for example, how many times did you film Voliere before you got a take that you like? Or were you the kind of person that went straight away, nope, one take, that's it, keep it real? Give me the secrets.
It's different now than it was then. Then I think I was much quicker to just be like, well, that's how I sound, post. And this is what I'm working on. And I was much more, I felt less vulnerable then. I mean, there were less people watching, and I was also a lot earlier in my career. So what I was sharing necessarily it wasn't that big of a deal. Like now it feels I want, I want to still be real and share how I'm practicing, but I feel afraid a lot now to post practice videos because somebody who could hire me might see that and be like, bad.
That's the classic, yeah. Although I don't think that really happens, to be honest. Like I used to have that same fear, and I think a lot of people do, but I don't think people who are hired for orchestras are going about social media looking for one wrong note and going, there, I knew it. Look, there's a wrong note. Get rid of them. Like, I don't think that's what it is, but it is the fear we create in our heads. Were you nervous when you started posting at the start?
No, I wasn't then. Wow. I don't remember it anyways. I think I felt kind of untouchable at that time. I was
That's great.
19, right? And just in my parents' house and nothing to do and everything to share. I was like, I just want to get out there and be a part of this community.
Okay,
and so it was so fun.
I love that. I really love that, but I'm so curious now to follow this path. So you start posting, you've got a few videos out, no problems, fun, great. When was it, like you said you were talking about 1,000 followers, was that a target, and how did it feel to hit that?
It was a target. I think I hit 1,000 somewhere after sometime, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months in. So I remember after 1 year, I was at like 4K. So it kind of started to blow up pretty fast. Because this was 3.5 years ago that I started.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it started to blow up pretty fast. And during COVID, it really was such a solace for me, because even when we went back to school, we were in, half online and half in person. And I was like, this is so weird, like that we're doing music school.
I feel so sorry for you guys.
Well, and every school did it so differently too. And so every one of my colleagues at other schools, like everybody's life as a music student looked so differently at that time. So I was sharing my experience, and I think that was interesting to a lot of other people, because some of them had to wear remember those like garbage bags that they had to put over?
Did you get any of those? Did you get any of those kind of gadgets for your flute?
No.
So the one you're talking about, sorry, the garbage bag thing, is that the thing that like you're blowing over and it was behind the flute like that? No, that's like the wind defender or something like that. So, that's something enough.
I think the flutes at Juilliard or a bunch of schools in the States, they had these black bags that covered their entire flute.
Oh, I did see that. I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Crazy. Oh, I never had
that was weird, man. Yeah.
They put in these big plastic bubbles instead in my undergrad. So wind players, we would stand in these like plastic boxes to play.
Whoa,
So we
okay.
still had wind ensemble and orchestra, but we were all just like in bubbles.
When you say bubbles, I've got in my head, like the zorbing thing. It's not like, like the zorb, like you get like the big ball and it rolls around and it's not okay. That would be like great.
Cube, but there's no like top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. A little bit disappointed now. Yeah.
But so I was still sharing that it started for me to get a little bit stressful. I think when I was getting really close to finishing my undergrad and coming here to the Glenn Gould School. I think my undergrad, sharing my experience applying for master's programs and all of that, it was a little bit scary because I was like, what if people are like judging the schools I'm applying for, or, what if they're like, she'll never get in there. I was kind of afraid to share some of that stuff. Although the reaction I've gotten on my Instagram has always been overwhelmingly positive. Like I've never had to deal with a lot of hate. There's always some, but not a lot. So I'm so grateful to have such a positive community there, but there's still fear. And that's when it was the turning point for me where I started to feel a little bit like I needed to be a little bit more guarded about what I was sharing. And that's been a journey. And as my page got bigger and bigger, that's been a journey that I've been kind of struggling with off and on, I want to be honest, but how, I don't want to be too vulnerable and I want to share my experience, but I don't want to open it up to people being nasty. Like it gets scary the more people that are going to see what you share. And everybody has an opinion. I can imagine. And they're allowed to have an opinion. But
you have to read the opinions. You have to look at them. That's different.
So and it's everything. It's not just my playing or my interpretation that I'm scared of. It's like, are they gonna? Because now I'm starting to be out in the world as like a grown up or whatever.
Yeah. No.
And now it's like, what are they gonna think? Are they gonna think I'm not doing enough, or I'm doing too much, or I should be doing this school or this freelancing gig, or this I should be doing more auditions or less auditions. Like you're always kind of wondering what they're thinking, even though you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. It's easy to say that, but it is so hard to detach yourself from that. Like I have nowhere near the following you do, but like doing social media the last few months a little bit, it started to happen a little bit. I've had the odd negative comment too, more on so I have a football podcast or a soccer podcast for you guys. That one, a couple of videos went a little bit viral and there was some nasty comments in it, but I loved it. I love the drama. I'm a sucker for drama, man. So like we co-run, the football podcast, we co-run the TikTok page, but I'm banned from like replying to comments and stuff on it because my co-host is always like, Gareth, you can't say that to people. And I was like, no, let me say it to him, because I love getting negative comments, because I'm like, I'm going to go after them. He's like, no, don't. But in the flute one, to be fair, I don't get too much. But it's always that worry. You're throwing yourself out there all the time and you don't see the reaction. You're talking to a camera and then you're in the good mood and you put it out and you feel a certain way. And then the reactions come in over time when you're maybe not in the same place you were when you posted it. And suddenly it become a lot more effective. Like I'll get comments or messages at like 2 a.m. I'm like, oh fuck, man. And I'm not in the mood to get that. If I was doing a concert, you would get an instant reaction. You can deal with it. But it's that's very weird.
Yeah, and I think what's very unique about this kind of niche corner of the internet that we're in is that our audience is also made up of our colleagues. So like when I go play an orchestra gig for the first time, a lot of people already know who I am and therefore all have a preconceived idea of what I'm going to be like. And dealing with that expectation is very scary to me because everybody has a different expectation. And if it was just an audience who I engaged with online but didn't really see them in person very much, I think that I wouldn't have so much fear. But when I see these people, I meet them all the time and it's so wonderful and amazing. And I get to play with them. And so these people that I've engaged with online, I get to play with them and it's so special, but it comes with this big fear of like, what if I'm not what they thought I was going to be? And that's really scary.
Yeah. What do you think the preconceptions are? Or even actually a better question is, do you think your online personality is a character, or is it more just an exaggeration of yourself, or is it genuinely just yourself and their preconceptions come from that's their thing?
I think I've always, from the beginning, it's been so important to me to share myself, like really
Okay.
opinions that I believed and really meant, and share feelings that I really felt. And I get the feedback all the time that people meet me in person and they're like, you're exactly how you are online. And that's so important to me that I get that, because
that's cloud.
Yeah, I feel like I identify with who I come across as online. I feel like that is me. But when sometimes I'm really tired, or I'm feeling exhausted and burnt out a little bit, the internet doesn't see that part of me.
Obviously,
but sometimes I am afraid to show that part of me in person, because people really notice when I'm having a bad day, or just I'm a little bit more quiet than usual. People really pick up on it, and it makes me feel like I have this responsibility to be happy and energetic all the time.
High energy,
and it can be really exhausting, especially because I'm actually an introvert. Nobody knows
really
that.
I would never have believed that. Seriously, you find yourself an introverted person? I suppose, well, social media does suit itself to that, because you are just talking to a camera, essentially.
Yeah, and I love to meet people. I love people. It's not that, but it is that I need an overwhelming amount of like recovery time to have the energy to engage with people.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I don't always have that energy, but I find myself always trying to exert it even when I don't have it, because I'm like, well, that's what people expect. And when I talk to people about this, they're always like, you're a human being. Like, human beings are a spectrum. They're not just a certain way all the time. But I remember in my undergrad, when we all came back to school and my Instagram had kind of become this thing while we were all away, people were different to me when I saw them again after
in what sense
away. In the sense that I don't know if they were nicer, or they were more energetic when they were talking to me, or more excited to talk to me, but they fed off of this, like, my energy more than they did before. It was I don't know, it was really interesting. And I remember like consciously being like, okay, now they expect this of me all the time. And I am
that's
like
a
that.
lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I'm like that 98% of the time. Like, it's so
which is good shooting. 98% is good.
And it's really, really, truly me. But those times where I'm not, I feel like I've let the whole world down, which is so dramatic.
Yeah. It's a little bit dramatic, but yes. I get where it's coming from. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. It's a really double-edged sword, social media, in that sense. And 35,000 people as followers, like, that's where the point where it really is, like, it's impacting your life. Have you been recognized? Have you ever been like, not in, I'm sure obviously plenty of times in orchestral settings, but have you ever like just walked down the street and someone's went, oh, hey?
Yeah, actually.
Seriously, yeah.
There are a few that stand out to me. Every time it happens, I'm like, this is so crazy. And it's so sweet to have those experiences, because, I remember being young and watching people like myself and how much I idolize them, and to be like, to have the privilege of being that person for somebody else now is
cool.
The most exciting thing in the whole world to me. And so
it is super cool.
And so when somebody says hi, I'm like, that's so fun. But so one that sticks out to me the most, this was literally crazy. I still get like starstruck when I think about it. So the Chicago Symphony came to Toronto last year and played in my school's hall, Kerner Hall.
Wow.
And our school was so nice. They saved like 30 tickets so that we could all, like, the orchestral students could go. And we looked forward to it all year. We were like, yes, the Chicago Symphony's coming. They were playing Beethoven 7. And we saw the concert and it was amazing. And then, of course, we're like kind of waiting at the stage door afterwards to be like, we love you, whatever.
Yeah.
And so one of the players came up to me And she says, "Hi, I'm Grace. Like, I was the harpist tonight. I just want to say I love your Instagram. Could I have a picture with you?" And I was like, "Can I have a picture with you?"
I'm waiting for, yeah. Oh, that is fucking great.
So,
That is a really cool moment. Oh, I would love that.
But even just walking on the street near my school, I've been stopped a few times by maybe students at the University of Toronto, or
Cool.
someone I give like a trial lesson to or something like that. The world is so small, like, which is
it
so
always
fun.
flute players, or is it musicians in general, or do you get people just nothing to do with music?
Most of the time it's flute players.
Okay.
But there's other just musicians in general. Yeah, I would say. And
That's
it's so fun.
And the reason I'm at as well is just because I put this on my Instagram the other day, but I got recognized for the first time by someone I'd never met, and
No
I was beside myself. I was with my girlfriend. I was like, it actually wasn't for this podcast again. It was for the football one, but I was waiting to get the train the other day, and some guy was like, he was sort of floating around me, like I could see him like trying to ear into my conversation with my girlfriend, and my instant reaction in a big city is to be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And then he shouted something in German at me, but a really strong accent, and I didn't really understand. I said, "So you going?" And then he spoke English, and I was like, "What?" And he went, "You're from the football podcast. I seen you on YouTube." And I was like, "What? What?" He's like, "Yeah, it's really good." And I was like, "Man, you recognize me from the internet?" And then the awkward thing though was we got on the same train as him, so he's at the other end of the train, and I'm at the bottom end with my girlfriend going, and he's sitting there going, "Okay, that was a bit. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything." And I'm going, "Thank you." I'm like peeking down the train, going, "Thank you." Man, I was so delighted. It was the coolest moment. That's it. I'm done now.
It's
And
so
obviously,
nice.
the fame went straight to my head. Straight to my head. Oh man, I'm running about here like I own the place. I'm running about like Elton John over here. It's like I'm famous. I'm a star now. But that's, yeah, I wanted to ask about that because I'm sure like 35,000 followers, it must happen. I probably should have checked this as well. My research in this podcast can be lacking sometimes. But is there any famous flute players following you?
That's such a good question. You
Have
know
you ever
what?
got like, oh,
Amy Porter followed me yesterday. And I
oh,
was like,
wow, okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
that was exciting. What's so funny is my teacher Susan just followed me like 5 days ago. And I was like, Susan.
Did she know? Did she know? Like you've got okay, that's good.
Like,
because that would have been a hell of a shock. Oh wow!
So that was funny. I think there are some other. The principal flute of the Chicago Symphony follows me, which was really exciting.
Who's the principal flute of Chicago?
Stefan.
It's the Icelandic guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very bad. I'm going to butcher his name if I try to say it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to try to do that. I fucked up enough names. That's a good one.
Jennifer Gunn. Yeah, that was exciting.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So there's a few that's really, really fun. And I think I'm not sure if Emmanuel Paoud follows me or not.
How are you not sure if Emmanuel Paoud follows you or not?
I know, because we've engaged in we've DM'd before and shared stories and stuff before. Yeah, because I've played for him a couple times, so I've met him a few times.
Okay.
Which is so cool. But I'm not sure if he follows me or not. But Igor Igorkin, do you know him?
The piccolo player from Bird and Phil. Yeah.
So he follows me, and he is so awesome. I love him.
He is. I actually love his content. He's really cool.
Yeah, but that's a really good one. I should look and see if there's any more.
You should look if Emmanuel Paoud follows you. You really should. He checked one of my stories once, and I was beside myself for like a week. I've actually only met him once. I met him for the first because he never really came to Britain when I was studying, and in Paris he did come once, but I was just starting the culinary mad, so I wasn't allowed to play in the masterclass, so I never got to meet him. And then I met him for the first time this year. Actually, I was over in Paris visiting my old teacher, and she was playing the Radio France Orchestra, and Paoud was playing the Elliott Carter Concerto that night. And then afterwards, my teacher was like, "Oh, do you want to go for a drink? And maybe Emmanuel will come by for." And I was like, "Oh yeah, Emmanuel, yeah, I call him that as well, obviously. Yeah, Emmanuel, that's my mate." And at some point, he did pop up, and I was getting really nervous. He was like, "It's fine, he's a friend, it's fine." I was like, "It's not just a friend, it's Emmanuel."
Yeah.
I had a few beers and then he came up and I was like, oh my God, it's him. And then it was the cooler moment was the fact that it was just the three of us sitting chatting and having a drink. And he just asked me a few questions as if we were like equals. And then I'm dying the whole time. Though, can I get a picture, please? But I didn't. Thought off that. I thought, no, play it cool. Play it cool. So I give him a fist bump at the end. And then when I got it, I was like,
No,
he's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's one of the top ones for me. I met him and I've met James Galway, and that's me happy now. I was probably starstruck with both of them.
James Galway. I really want to meet him. He
really is adorable. I had a whiskey with James Galway, which is one of my big moments. I shared a Bushmills whiskey with him in Belfast. I played for him in Belfast once recently, actually, and we got him a bottle of whiskey as a thank you present. And his wife, I don't think he listens to this podcast. If he does anyway, Jimmy. Sorry. He wanted to have a bit of whiskey, but his wife was like, "You're not allowed it." And then she turned her back, and he's like, "Quickly, get that out." And he got us all the whiskey, and we drank it together. It was great. But he's really cool. Right. Sorry. Anyway, sidetrack. I wrote out like a load of questions to ask you, but the more you're talking, the more you're sort of like answering them by proxy. And I've got more questions I want to ask you, and this is going to go on too long. So, but I do have to ask this one. Collaborations. Have you done any? Are you going to do any? Is there any you would like to do?
Yeah. So the first collaboration that I did, I think started off strong. I think was Flute Center of New York.
Oh yeah.
That was I was in, I think, 4th year undergrad. And I was starting to get up there. I was like maybe at like 15, 16K, something like that. And I was starting to be like, oh man, like I really want to do a collaboration. So I reached out to them and I felt like, I don't know, I was like, why would they want to collaborate with me? But they did. Can you believe it? So that was the first one I did. I collabed with Soundbrenner after that, which they're those wearable metronomes that like vibrate.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Those are really cool.
So did you get one then?
Yeah, I did.
I've wanted to try them for a while. They feel like a little bit of a cheat code when you're recording and stuff or practicing because you can't see them, but you can keep really well in time.
No, I know. And like, I've never cheated before, but sometimes I think how easy it would be because you can put it on like your ankle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's cheating.
I know. There's a lot of, my students will be watching this as well. Do not do the, nah.
Don't do it.
If you want, I don't care. We do not condone cheating on the Inline G podcast. That's really cool. What else? Keep going.
So those are the two biggies. And then I have another one coming out in the new year, but I don't think I'm allowed to say. So
okay. No, we won't pry then, because this comes out way before the new year. We have a very quick turnover period of this podcast. So, okay, you can tell me off air if you want, then I'll not tell anybody. Okay, who would you like to collab with? What's like the dream collaboration? Would it be Katie Flute?
I genuinely think it would. I really think it would. You
was the OG.
Yeah, we've DM'd a few times.
That would be great. That would shock the flute world. That would bring the flute world to its core. That one. That'd be so cool.
I think, I should really reach out to her again and talk to her about it.
Please do.
That would so satisfy like 14-year-old me who played the flute. And she was always just like mother flute Instagram. I just loved her so much. I watched every one of her videos. And even now, she's one of my like comfort creators. Like I'll go back and watch what
See, that's so cool as well for you as a creator because you were part of that generation. So because when I was younger, Facebook was bigger and YouTube was in its early days. So I don't have that experience with Instagram. I came to Instagram as an adult, not as a teenager. So I didn't really have that, which I think for you is so cool that you were part of it and now you go into it. That's so much fun.
It is so much fun. And it's crazy to see how social media has changed since then. Like it was so simple, I think then, and now it's been so complex. Have
you had any issues with like I don't know, copyright strikes or all that kind of stuff? All those like pitfalls that come with social media?
Yeah, when I used to, sometimes when I share a recording of a piece that I've recorded or something on YouTube will be like, this is, Warner Classics. And I'll be like, thank you so much. That's actually
Hey, stop flirting, YouTube, eh? No, give me a drink first.
One time, I had posted something on Instagram and it was blocked. I think somewhere, I don't know, it was blocked in a couple countries because it was like, this is a manual code. And I was like, that's the nicest thing you could have ever said to me. Unblock my video.
That happened to me once. Well, I was so buzzed with that. I was like, yeah, I'll take the block. Yeah. I know. It does sound just like a manual, actually, now that you mention it. Yeah, thank you very much.
I do that stuff sometimes. And it can be kind of frustrating. I haven't had any issues recently, so I don't know.
You've never been blocked, have you? You've never like had your account suspended or anything like that, no?
No, nothing like that.
Good.
So that's been really good. But it can be difficult, especially because so much of what we do is playing music by other people. It's very easy to get copyrighted and those.
And it's also the fear of like when you make a social media account that it's kind of out of your control, and it's such an important part of your life. Like if your social media account was to get like hacked, for example, that'd be a nightmare.
I know, and I used to really be worried about that. And when I was in high school, I used to sing a lot, and I had a little like singing account on Instagram. And that was my first little taste of social media, actually, was my little singing account on Instagram. And I would post little cover videos with me and my guitar. And it was so fun. And I remember I went away for the summer, and it had been hacked by something like super inappropriate. And so there was like basically like nudes going out on my, like, not of me, but like
I know,
on my singing account on Instagram. And I was like, this is a nightmare. So I've always
you can't delete it then, obviously, because you can't get access to the account to delete it.
So
that's my worst fear. Man, I need to change my password
now. But I was so scared of that when I started this one again.
Yeah.
And I haven't thought of it in a few years, but I'm gonna think.
Sorry to bring that back up.
I go to sleep tonight. Thanks.
Like actually, one of the ones I've had, it's ridiculous, but because TikTok is famously like fickle for this kind of stuff. TikTok can take a lot of stuff down. Instagram's a little bit more reliable, I feel, but TikTok is really fickle. You can lose videos so easily, and obviously I'm very early on in this. So, but I had one video, my viral success in TikTok, which was so stupid. It actually wound me up so much, but at the same time, I was very happy. And again, it went to my head. I was back home when this happened, but I spend a lot of time like making clips of my podcast and doing videos and thinking of content I'm going to create and creating it and really building it well. Then one night I go to my friend's house when I'm back home in Belfast, and they have like a dog pen because they have a dog, a small like sausage dog, but the dog's not in there, and they have one of those Roomba things that like, you know, like the Hoover that cleans your flat and you like leave it on, it does it.
Yes.
So we had a few drinks in it, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if we taped a knife to it? So we taped the knife to the Roomba and then put it in the dog pen and put loads of balloons in, and you sort of bet on it. And it was a lot of fun. I put that up, and it's got like 450,000 views or something. It went like mega viral, and I was like, that's what goes viral, not all the content I spent hours curating. The time I taped a fucking knife to a Hoover, and that's it, explodes. And then I genuinely considered for a while, like, maybe I should be the knife guy. Maybe that's my thing. I'll start like taping knives to different household objects, and I'll be the knife guy. Maybe the knife guy doesn't suit me. No, don't. But then I've got this real fear now where I'm like, if that one video gets deleted, most of my social media, like my TikTok, just collapses. And every time I'm floating past them, I was like, don't hit the delete button, Matt. Do not hit that. It would like ruin my, not my career, but it would be a big hit to my TikTok for one video. It's so fickle. I'm always afraid of something happening to it. A TikTok, you have a TikTok.
I have one, but I've never.
How do you feel about it?
I've never really done it. I watched a few creators on TikTok when TikTok kind of blew up during COVID, but for some reason I don't love the platform. I don't really understand how it works, and like the editing and stuff. I don't understand the app. I literally
don't think anyone understands TikTok. TikTok is lawless, man.
There's just like so much, excuse my language, shit on it. Like there's so much shit on TikTok.
Excuse me, sorry, you can't swear on this podcast. I'm gonna have to bleep that out now.
No, I Thank you. Swear.
I know. You can definitely swear on this podcast.
But there's so much stuff on TikTok, and Instagram I always just found to be a little bit more straightforward, and it's easier for me to go from Instagram to YouTube. Like I find it a little bit more compatible platform.
Yeah,
TikTok is just like a beast. I just won't touch it.
It is. It's a weird place, and I feel like I don't know anyone that has success on both. Like I'll find TikTok people who are massive and have like 800 followers on Instagram. Yeah, there's no one who can really do both. They're so different and they're so separate. And I feel like you need a different personality type for TikTok as well. TikTok is so intense, and it's so like it's very a lot happens all the time. Like
Yeah,
TikTok, within 30 seconds, you've seen way too much content in 30 seconds. While Instagram, I feel like you are building up a community, you are talking to people. I love Instagram. It's definitely my favorite of all the platforms.
me too.
But yeah, I get that. And YouTube, to be fair, your YouTube's going very well. It seems to be doing great. Is that something you're looking to do a little bit more in the future? Those sort of like mid-length videos, 10 to 15 minutes?
Yeah, I think so. And, I used to vlog a little bit more in my undergrad, and I loved it so much. It was so much fun for me. And I always heard back from, the community from Instagram that they loved the vlogs and those kinds of things. So that was fun. I stopped when I came to the Glenn Gould School because I started getting this really, really intense imposter syndrome. And I felt too insecure to vlog. I was like, I feel too insecure. But making that audition vlog video was super fun for me. And I want to get back into that. I feel a lot more confident in making that.
I think it was great. It was really good content, and it's content that needs to be made as well. Although, isn't it like, it's weird how imposter syndrome just strikes at the most inopportune moments in your life, but when you get accepted to a prestigious conservatoire, then it decides to pop up. You're like, where were you when I was doing nothing? Yeah. Now I'm here and I've earned my place here. Now you're going to rock up. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that was really tough, but I'm feeling a lot more confident.
Do you feel like posting on social media and being so open with it relates to live playing? Do you have less nerves with live playing because you are putting yourself out there all the time, or are they two totally different skill sets?
That's like the best question ever. I've never thought about that. Yeah.
I'm a guy. Oh, thank you. Got to clip that.
You know what? I think they're very, very different skill sets. But I'm better at public speaking now because of my Instagram. Definitely better at public speaking. So when it comes to like introducing my pieces or doing like interviews about things or whatever, I'm much more confident and much more content and comfortable in that space than I would have been if I didn't do the Instagram thing. Because I don't think I need to explain that. I think that makes sense. But I think
it does make sense. It makes 100% sense.
But performing, I think it's a totally different skill set. I really do. And because the more I post on Instagram, I still have performance anxiety.
Do you really? Yeah. Do you suffer from it?
It was so bad last year. It was really, really awful. Like there came a point because I came here to the conservatory and I looked around at all my colleagues who were like, I started when I was 2 and then I went to Eastman and then I went to Peabody and I went to Juilliard and now I'm here. And I was like, that's so great. And I was never like jealous or anything like that. I really pride myself in being like, I so genuinely feel so excited for people when they feel success or have success. Yeah. But I did feel so insecure because my story did not look like any of their stories.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
So that made me feel like I didn't belong. And even when I was accepted to the Glenn Gould School, I remember even up until the first day of school, feeling like I would go to sleep at night and I'd be afraid that I'd wake up to an email being like, we're sorry, we actually sent you an acceptance by mistake.
Yeah. I had the exact same nightmare.
Yeah. And for months and months and months, I thought that I was literally going to receive an email that was like, oopsie.
That would be very clumsy on their part though, wouldn't it? That would be really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they just have to let me in at that point, even if it was
at that point it's rude not to let you in. Like, I told her. Damn.
But so my imposter syndrome was so bad, and it really, really affected my playing in front of my colleagues because and my teachers, because I really felt like I wasn't ready to be there. And looking back, I was ready. I was inexperienced. That is true. I was inexperienced, but I was ready and I was in the right place. But I would go up to, I recall my most, the hardest performance I ever did was in my first semester here. And I was in my flute and harp duo. And we went and I was just playing for it was 50 people. It was just my colleagues and a few teachers. Okay. And I was introducing the piece and my voice was shaking and I like couldn't even like see straight. I was so
I know the
afraid.
feeling, yeah.
And I somehow got through it. I like blacked out through the entire performance, but I was shaking from head to toe, and I like went to the bathroom afterwards and just about passed out. Like I was so overcome with this fight or flight feeling. Like I really truly felt in my heart of hearts that I was like going to die. Like it was the worst feeling. And so that was a big turning point for me where I was like, okay, I have to do something about this right now because this is not sustainable and I can't keep living like this. Like my love of music was gone because I existed purely in fear. Like it was just it was so sad. And I think so many people have these feelings and we don't necessarily always have an avenue to talk about it. And I think it's getting better and better, but you know, a lot of us, I think, hide our anxiety because, you know, maybe it has something, we think it, you know, somehow means that we're not as good of a player as somebody who's confident. And it really, I don't think has anything to do with the other thing.
No.
But so I did freaking everything to try and like.
What did you try? Tell me.
Yeah. So I got hypnotized. Can you believe that? I went to
No way.
I literally did. I went to a hypnotist.
Okay, hypnotist. Do they have like the little pendulum, or is that the old school thing?
That's what I thought.
You're breaking my heart now.
It wasn't that. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "This is."
I would walk straight out. Like, excuse me, where's the pocket watch? No.
Yeah, but it was so interesting. It was like, when I was hypnotized, I felt like I was walking around in my brain. Does that make? I literally felt like my whole body existed in here, and I was just like walking around, and it was so weird. And then, but it was actually really good because he doing the hypnotizing taught me how to get into this hyper relaxed state, and like a focused state. It was like similar to meditation, kind of.
Yeah, because that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, with performance anxiety, like a huge issue is that you can't focus on what you need to focus on, which is music, right? Because you're everywhere about all the worries. Yeah. And so I was able to then learn from that, and then he taught me how to put myself into this like quasi state of hypnosis right before I go on and play. That kind of zeroes you in, and I found that wasn't my like the only thing that I needed, but it did really help me figure out how I needed to feel before I went up there. So that was really good. And another thing.
Wow, so you think the hypnosis worked a little bit then?
I do. I really think it worked.
Wow.
And I was so
I'm sorry for my skepticism. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm sorry for my skepticism. I don't know why, but you hear hypnosis and you think, nah, come on now. But there probably is. Yeah.
I felt like that too. And like, I went on the call and I was like, well, like, I'm desperate. So let's just see what happens.
You went on the call? Was it online?
It was
You can hypnotize people over Zoom?
Can you believe that?
No.
They can.
I can believe it a little bit, to be fair, because I remember once Darren Brown, the UK comedian or the UK magician, did a thing on live TV where he hypnotized people through the TV, and like 1 in 5 people ended up stuck to their sofa. That was the whole thing.
No way.
Yeah, it can happen. Sorry, I didn't think I would talk about Darren Brown in this podcast. Anyway, back into it. So hypnosis worked. What else have you tried?
Yeah, so the hypnosis, that was one of my the most like wild things that I did, I think. I talked to just about everybody I could talk to. Like I talked to all of my colleagues, I talked to all of my teachers, and every one of them had a different experience with performance anxiety and a different thing that they learned. And I shared a little bit about it online while I was going through it, but this is inspiring me a little bit more to share more about that, because I shared a little bit about it when I was in it, but never really the reflection process afterwards. And I think that might actually be really helpful. So thanks.
Yeah, there we are. That's what I'm here for.
But I read a lot too about, like the inner game of music, the inner game of tennis. Have you read either of those?
I have read both of them, yeah. I love the inner game of tennis. Huge fan for it. Inner game of music, I read after, wasn't as keen on that. But I love the inner game of tennis. I adored it.
Yeah, me too. And that was really helpful. Just trying to navigate like the different states that I should be in while practicing and performing was helpful. And then at the end of the day, I think what helped me the most on top of all of those things that were music related was just introspection. Like my teacher asked me, Susan said, I talked to her about this, and Susan said, why do you feel like you're not good enough? And I was like, well, now I'm going to cry in my lesson.
How long have you got? Yeah. How long have you got? Yeah.
But it was a really important question. And for me to get to the bottom of that is what really helped me get over that. And I still feel afraid, I still feel anxious before I perform, like we all do, but I don't feel that it's out of control now. I definitely think that I have learned how to use it as like a propellant, and something that helps me get into the correct adrenaline that I need to be in to be really dynamic on stage, I think, and focus.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a fine line between it, with that adrenaline, with being terrified and being able to create genuine magic on stage, because it just adds, but it's a very fine line. It's hard to walk on that line without breaking down and getting too nervous and also getting too hyped up and pushing out the other way. Yeah. But it's, that's so cool. I didn't know you had all those issues as well. That's really cool to talk about that. You should make more content about it. I would watch that. There you are.
I really
now you've said it in this podcast, you have to. You kind of oblige yourself to.
Yeah, I will. I really
there
will.
You are.
It's good. It's good. It was a long journey, and I think we continue going on that journey forever. I mean, in different stages of our life, we're going to have different stages of performance anxiety based on things that are happening and things like that. So always knowing how to get back to home base, I think, was a really important thing for me to learn.
That's yes, beautifully put. Wonderful. Wait, I didn't think we ended up talking about imposter syndrome. I'm so glad we did. I actually talked. Did I talk about it with Jay? So we talked about you on the episode with Jay Marsh, aka the Wild Flute. For anyone listening, that was on episode 22, I want to say 23 maybe. It's a couple of episodes ago anyway, which was really cool because now you're on it when I was talking about you, and now I'm talking about her on it. And now I think I've had 6 or 7 guests on this podcast. I've had 2 Irish people and I've had 2 Canadians. So if I get one more Canadian, that'll be the most represented nationality in this podcast. And I never thought that would happen. And the one, I talked about this a little bit on the podcast with Jay, and then I went and looked it up. That's one of those games we love to play, is like, guess who's Canadian? You'd never believe this person's Canadian. And the one I always love is Shania Twain. Man, Shania Twain's Canadian.
I know.
So you guys have, I'm big. I don't know why I'm talking about Shania Twain, but you were gigging with her then, not with Shania Twain, with Jay Marsh. Unfortunately, you weren't gigging with Shania Twain. If you were gigging with Shania Twain, we'd be talking about nothing else on this podcast. But you were gigging with, Jay, we'll call her the Wild Flute then. I like her alter ego thing, with the Peterborough Symphony. How did you find that? How was that?
So fun. It was so fun. I was backstage before one of our Royal Conservatory Orchestra concerts, when Jay DM'd me on Instagram. I was like, hey, like, do you want to come and play classical symphony with the Peterborough Symphony, in a few weeks? And I was like, jumping around backstage. I was like, yes! I was so excited. And
that's great.
Best, like little tidbit to have right before I went on stage, because then I was so excited. So immediately I said, I think I typed like yes with like 8,000 exclamation points. I was like, yes!
And then
so that was so fun. And we went, and so Jay she came to my recital last year, which meant the whole. And I met her kind of briefly at, Marina Piccinini came here and did a concert. And so I met Jay there, actually. But just like all very briefly, like we knew about each other, we supported each other online, but we weren't besties like we are now. Yeah. And so we went, I met her at a subway station, and we drove together, and we just me the whole way. You know what I mean? Like,
I can imagine you guys together. That would be great.
So fun. And so we spent the weekend together in Peterborough. We did some, practicing together, and that was so fun to be able to practice with her just outside of the context of the orchestra. Not only because classical symphony is like a bitch.
Also, how is classical symphony as a second? I don't think I've even seen the second flute part.
So the second flute part, there are some things that are so much easier, but there are some things things that are just different enough that it was really tough because I've learned the first part for different exams.
And then it's like a third down or something then?
Yeah, so it's like, or like the same thing, but over a quarter note. Like
that's awful. That's the worst.
Confusing to learn, but super fun. Like it was just the most fun experience. And
that's great. I love that.
Jay has the most colorful sound. Like there's so much, like even like wisdom in her sound. Like I hear her play and I'm like,
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, there's so much person in her sound.
There is, yeah.
And that was so exciting to listen to.
It's so weird that, because I've talked about this before, but when you're interviewing someone in a podcast, it's a bit weird to sit and say to them the whole time, you're brilliant, you're great, I love your sound. So I normally do it the episode afterwards, I will reflect and say that. So I'll talk about Jay now, and then my next guest, I'll talk about how great your playing is. But Jay's sound, when I discovered it, I was like, whoa. Like, it was amazing as well because I'd not heard of her for so long, and then she slipped under the radar, did her own thing, and then just sort of opened up, kicked down the door, had an album, playing in an orchestra, and she's like, whoa. And I listened, wow, shit, she's good. Man, like, I was genuinely, like, I mean this in the best way possible, but I wasn't expecting her to be that good. I didn't think someone could get that far in their career without me having not heard of them, and then suddenly be that good. And I was like, fuck, she can play, man. She'll be listening right now. She'll be delighted with this, And I've just finished making the clips for her as well, so she'll be very happy.
She's listening.
Oh, yeah, she will. And she has the pink hair, which also, but I'm going to do a quick, we can't keep talking forever. I want to talk forever, but I know you've got an exam to get to. So, but one thing, just what I'm thinking of, I didn't send you this question. I just, purely out of my own curiosity, because we were talking about Jay, the pink hair. You're a redhead. I'm a redhead. Is there any other famous ginger flute players? I was trying to think about this. Not that we're famous flute players, but you know what I mean. Is there anyone?
We are famous.
I can't think of one. I can't think of anyone apart from us. So, like, technically, we're the most famous redhead flute players then, maybe. I can't think of anyone.
I can't think of anyone.
Yeah, there we are.
Well.
That's great. Then, no, good. We'll move on from that.
Jay is also naturally a redhead, which is
She is. She told me this, But she doesn't count anymore. No, she's on. No, she's not. She's not allowed in the club anymore. She's with the pink ones.
Sorry.
Nah, you can't have both. You can't have both now. Right. Yeah. Okay. Before we go, I do want to run through some of these fun questions. I think I sent you these anyway because I'm very professional and very nice to my guests. I send them. I don't throw them any curveballs in this because I don't want you guys getting shocked. But anyway, let's go through favorite flute concerto.
Ibert. Is that basic? Yeah. I think it's basic, but it's my favorite. I'm sorry.
But it is a gorgeous concerto. It'd be my favorite too. Okay. Yeah. Actually, out of the two Mozart concertos, do you have a preference?
Oh, you know what? I like to play Mozart in G more, but I like to listen to Mozart in D like significantly more.
Yeah. I'm sick of playing that G major concerto, man. The first few bars, I cannot do it anymore. I play that every day for about 15 years. I cannot do it anymore. Okay, do you have a favorite flute album?
Yeah, I have a couple. I think Marina Piccini.
Oh, give me a few.
Yeah, Bach Sonatas, her Bach album.
Oh, is that really the one? Like it's quite zoomed in on her face, the cover, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite, that was like 10, 15 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that is a banging album then.
Susan Hefner's Canadian Flute Masterpieces, so up there. But my favorite recording of hers that she ever did was her Burton Sonatina from her American Flute Masterworks.
Okay.
So
I have to check that out.
And then have you heard Emmanuel Pau's Into the Blue, his like jazz album?
Oh yeah, that's an old school one, I think. Yeah.
And I love it. Oh, and another one that I've been listening to so much recently, I forget the name, but it's the album Fly the Coop, Ami Ferguson and Ruckus. Do you know?
I've seen that. I haven't listened. Someone else recommended this to me recently. I think it was maybe Jay someone recommended this to me and I haven't got around to it yet.
It's really up there in my list of favorite albums. It's
fantastic. What's on it?
It's just a bunch of so my favorite is her Bach E minor sonata.
Okay.
But she has like a full Baroque band, but they make it like so fun. And then in some of them they do like in the third movement they do some like jazz improv in the middle of it.
Wow.
so wild. It's really creative
I'm into that.
and super outside the box. And she also, I'm not sure if this is on Fly the Coop or not, but she did a recomposed version of the partita where she sings the bass line while she plays.
Whoa. Like singing and playing at the same time or recorded separately?
No, singing and playing.
Whoa. Man,
Like,
I have to check that out. Oh, that's cool. I would love to do something like that. Oh. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm doing tonight then. I'm going to pour myself a drink and do that tonight. Okay, next question. First flute album you remember either buying or streaming? I imagine it's going to be streaming for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first flute album was Susan Milan, her La Flute Enchantée album, and it's because
I know that record.
Chaminade Concertino with orchestra is on it, and I was playing that piece, as we all do, and that I think that was the first flute album I ever streamed.
That's a good one. That's a really good answer. I wasn't expecting to hear Sue Milan on this podcast. She's a great flute player. I'm a huge fan of her as well.
Yeah, me too.
Nice one. Okay, what's your first album in general you remember buying or streaming? Please tell me it's not the same one. Please tell me you've got something that's not flute.
Well, the first album that I ever bought, and I bought a CD of it, was 2010. Oh, was it 2010 or 2012? One Direction, Up All Night.
Yeah, okay. That's not bad, actually. I've heard a lot worse than that. That's not bad. One Direction I was never too into, but Harry Styles I like as a solo artist. One Direction, I was a little bit too old for One Direction. But Harry Styles as a solo artist I enjoyed a lot. That's not too bad.
Yeah, and Jonas Brothers I probably had a Jonas Brothers album around that time too.
Don't talk about the Jonas Brothers. Don't talk about the Jonas
Brothers. Oh my gosh. Sorry,
no. I haven't got around to this in this podcast yet, but very quickly, my favorite band growing up were a band called Busted, and they were out just before the Jonas Brothers. They were kind of like the Jonas Brothers, a little bit ruder, and they were British. They never broke the American market. And then they broke up after 2 years. Really quickly, they were huge. I went to see them last year when they had their comeback tour. Oh my god, it's amazing. Anyway, when they broke up, they sold all the rights for their songs to the Jonas Brothers record label, and the Jonas Brothers re-released them under their own name. So it's why a lot of people in North America are familiar with like Year 3000. They think that's a Jonas Brothers song, which drives me insane because it's a Busted song. Busted wrote that song, and a lot of Jonas Brothers. No, there's a lot. I think they did What I Go to School For as well. They released that on their own label. They released a couple of Busted tracks. So I'd never forgive them for that. And there was a couple of bad words. There was a couple of swear words in Year 3000 originally. There was a line about a triple-breasted woman, and I think the Jonas Brothers changed that because it was a bit too risque. So we don't talk about the Jonas Brothers in this podcast. Not that they're bothered. I'm sure they're not going to be worried that I don't talk about them. But anyway, okay, that's not bad. Okay. One piece you would love to perform that you haven't performed yet.
Burton Sonatina. It's been
You've
so
never played it.
And you know what? I just bought the sheet music yesterday.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
Are you going to play on it?
It's right.
Oh, what a coincidence.
I'm doing
You've never played it. Wow.
I've never played it, and I've always been so in love with it. It's just never fit on one of my recital programs.
I get it. Yeah.
But I am doing, instead of a recital this year at the Glen Gould School, in your final year, you can do a super mock where you do like an 1.5-hour mock audition. You just basically play every flute excerpt ever.
Oh, that sounds fun.
I really wanted to devote my year to excerpts to really feeling more comfortable with them. But I decided a couple days ago that I'm going to do a non-credit recital anyways. And so I'm going to put Burton Sonatina on it. So I should play it this April. Woo!
There we are. Okay, so there we are. Beautiful. Okay, quickly. Oh, this is a good question. I forgot I made this question. Designing your own dream concert. So you can design a dream concert. You've got 3 performers, a headliner, and 2 supports. They can be any genre of music, classical or non-classical, alive or dead, but your dream concert.
Whoa. It's such a good
That's a hard question.
The curation of this concert, I don't think it'll blend very well, but it's just going to be I'm going to be selfish and pick my 3 faves.
Dude, that's it.
We're going to open. Who are we going to open with? I want to have Harry Styles on that concert. Harry Styles is on the concert. Okay. Then I want to have Emily Bynum.
Oh.
I want her. Emily, if you're listening, you're on my concert.
Oh, I doubt she is. I really hope she is. I love Emily Bynum. Oh man.
I just absolutely love her sound. It's so rich. So I would love to have her on the concert. And actually, I'm not sure if you've heard of this pianist, but Philip Chu, if Philip is listening to this, he's going to go bonkers. Hey, Philip, I hope you're listening to this.
Philip Chu? No, I haven't.
He's a Canadian pianist, and I met him this year at Scotia Fest, which is a summer festival in Halifax in Nova Scotia. Yeah. And he was one of our like guest artists. And he is just brilliant. I've never been super in love with listening to solo piano. My boyfriend's a pianist, so I feel really bad.
Yeah, well, you should be bad about that.
I've never really loved solo piano, and also never really loved Bach that much. But I sat down in this concert, and Philip Chu was opening with this Bach chorale, and I like literally transcended realms. Like I was like, I could not believe that I was experiencing that level of musicianship. So I would put him on this concert. I think.
How do you spell his surname?
CH. It's either CHU or CHIU.
Okay, yeah, but I'll find it one way or the other. Okay, good. Yeah. I will definitely check that out.
Yeah,
that's cool.
He's brilliant.
And oh yeah, that's your three. Who's headlining then out of the three? It's weird for Harry Styles to support, Harry Styles to support Emily Bynum. As much as I love Emily Bynum, it would be a bizarre concert, wouldn't it? It would bring the atmosphere down a little bit. But it's your concert.
It is my concert.
What are you going to be most hyped for out of the three?
Oh, that's so hard.
Is to see live. Doesn't mean that's your favorite musician. It means who you want to see live.
I think Emily Bynum.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I totally dig that. That's a really good answer. Thank you for that. What's your go-to piece to impress someone who has never heard the flute or classical music? So if someone's going to weigh into the flute world, do you have a piece for them?
Yes, one sec. I'm like,
we can cut this out. I won't cut it out. You can't mute yourself, yeah. I'll entertain everybody while you do it. What would be my piece? I don't even have a piece, actually. What would be my piece if I was trying to impress someone in the flute world?
Oh my goodness. It's one of those eye-watering coughs. You know those? Suffering?
Oh, don't worry. My visual effects team can take the eye-watering away. I'll have a word with them.
What would be your piece?
I don't know, actually. I once put up a Facebook status saying, what would the piece be if you were on a first date and someone found out you were a flute player and asked you to play for them? I put that on Facebook once, and I got some really good answers to it. And for that, I had said, for me, it would be the Daphnis and Chloe solo.
Oh, yeah.
That would be my, like, if someone said in the first date, oh, play me a bit of flute, I'd play that. But I think
to
impress... It is, yeah. I think a flute piece to get into the flute. Do you know, actually, I will say, the last movement of the CP Bach D minor flute concerto. It's rock and roll as fuck. It's really rock and roll.
That's a headbanger.
Yeah, that's a festival tune.
Someone who's never seen classical music before, or like the flute before, I would love to introduce them with like Ian Clarke's Great Train Race.
Have you played it?
So I have played it. Played it. So
it's
that
so
would
much
be
fun.
Super fun. Or another one that I think would be good for this is Bartók's Suite Paysanne Hongrois, the Hungarian suite.
Ooh, I think really good answer.
Be really good for that. Yeah.
That's a really good answer. Wow, I did not expect that. I didn't expect the Great Train Race either. I haven't played that in years, man. Do you ever play Zoom Tube as well?
No, but it's on my list. That's such a cool piece.
It's actually hard though, because there's like a scale in it. There's like a quarter tone scale, and it's a fucking nightmare. Like, it's a nightmare. That was the one reason I played it once on that one scale. Plus, there's also a bit in it where you have to shout. And
do you have to shout?
Yeah, it's written in the score that you have to go woo or something like that. And my anxiety can't do that. I can't do that on stage. I can play all kinds of weird stuff, but to actually verbally say like woo on the stage, I'd rather die.
Yeah.
No, that all the anxiety would kill me on that. So I put it off for that reason. But yeah, if you ever tackle it, you've got that to look forward to.
I will. Okay,
last one. Do you have any pre-performance rituals or superstitions?
I don't have many weird ones. One thing I always do every time I perform, even if it's just like in a masterclass or a concert, when I shower that morning, I listen to the what I'm going to play in the shower. I like blast it while I'm washing my hair. And I've done that since I was in undergrad. I always listen to the shower. I don't know why.
But then if it's like a 45-minute recital, do you have to have a 45-minute shower then to get through it all?
All wrinkled. Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
Another thing, I mean, pre-performance like rituals, I always do the power pose. This one.
Big fan of that. Big fan of that. Okay, where do you do that? Do you sneak off to the bathroom or something if there's people around, or can you do it in front of people?
I can do it in front of people. I usually just go towards a corner or something like that because I also, when I'm getting like 5 minutes to stage, I have to be by myself. Like I have to I'm not like a chit-chatty person beforehand. I really have to get in the zone. And that's another thing that I discovered in my whole performance anxiety journey. But so I usually just like find a corner and do my power pose and just like zone in. And that's what I'll do. I also usually eat a banana. Not every time.
What?
I'm not religious.
A lot of players do that.
But I eat a banana.
Is this because of the potassium? I've heard so many people say this.
I just eat one. I don't know. I think it's a good snack because
a lot of people do this.
Granola bars, like you can get like shit stuck places, and then it comes up when you're like playing, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So and then anything citrusy makes me
not good.
Not good. So bananas are just perfect for that. So
that's a good A lot of people do that. I went through a period of starting to have like a little bit of dark chocolate, and I didn't really know why. And then someone else had said they were doing it too. And then I realized a couple of years later, it was because of what Lupin gives Harry Potter when he sees the Dementor in Prisoner of Azkaban. And I just got it into my head. It's like, have a little bit of chocolate, it helps. And that's where it came from subconsciously. And to be honest, it does help. Someone had said to me, there's something in it, in dark chocolate, like 80% plus, like the one that doesn't really taste that good. One of those. I had that, but yeah. Banana, I've seen a lot. That's a thing. Maybe I need to get on the bananas. Maybe that's the secret to great food pen is a banana.
Bananas. It gives me a little boost, but then you don't feel too full or like they're not heavy. Yeah.
They are. Well, that's a beautiful way to end the podcast on bananas. I didn't think we'd go there. Before we go then, is there anything you would like to plug? Anything you'd like to tell the listeners about?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on the podcast. This was so fun.
It was so much fun. Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking now, I would maybe someday we'll get me, you, and Jay on the same podcast. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be so fun. That will be a 67-hour episode.
Yeah, that'd take a lot of cutting down, wouldn't it? Do you know what? We don't even have to record it. We'll call it a podcast, but we'll just sit and drink wine together and forget about it.
We should hang out, actually.
Yeah, that's what the episode with Jay. After I finished recording with Jay, we stayed on the call for like 2 hours afterwards. It was ridiculous. By the end, I was actually really, really drunk as well because it was my birthday. And it was like 4 a.m. here. It was really late at night because of the time difference. Oh, it was actually quite bad. There was moments the next morning. But I was looking at the podcast the next morning going, please tell me I said that after recording. And when I think that, it must have been bad because there's very few things I wouldn't put in my podcast. But there was a few things I was like, oh, please tell me I didn't say that on air. But I didn't. We got away with it. So anyway.
It's so fun to talk to. And, like, you stay at, like, when we were at, the night before the Peterborough concert, we stayed up watching Drag Race.
I heard this,
It was like, we gotta go to bed, but this is so fun. But
you weigh up the fuck the concert, Drag Race, Oh, I've been there. Right, well, I'm going to let you go. You've got an exam to get to, so good luck with it. Good luck with everything. In the little introduction, I'll plug everything. I'll put things down in the description. I suppose we'll say goodbye to the good people, and I will chat to you soon. Have a lovely Christmas as well, and have a lovely New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you. Right, I'm going to hit stop on record now, and then, I'll chat to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Cheerio, everyone.